Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing, Miss Terry?
I am well, and I'm delighted to be here. This is a really neat segue or transition for our queer chat with
Brian?
and Terry.
Yes, we are here again, and I'm glad to be back in Matt's office doing our show. And we just finished up a pretty lengthy video presentation that we did on our coming out, our emergent model for how
Yes,
to come out.
and we won't go into that, but I do think that even the name emergence model
Yes.
is a misnomer,
Okay.
and so that's something else I think we'll continue to work on.
Okay.
Um, the pressure is off because we had offered to present that as a workshop at an upcoming conference,
Yes.
and it didn't fit the pattern of what they're doing. So,
Right.
so we're saving it. They suggested in the next workshop,
Right,
the next
right.
conference.
Right.
And that's fine. That gives us time to better refine it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe
Yeah.
write the book.
So I'm excited to talk to you today about coming out, and sort of we talked about it being a process.
Yes.
And we also talked about it being very positive, even though we spent a lot of time talking about pitfalls and things to watch out for and gave advice and talked through those. Genuinely, it has been something that's been positive in my life. And I know it's something that's been positive in your life. And so today I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the recent excitement that you've had around
Yes.
your coming out and your emerging.
Do you remember the song Changes? Bum, bum, bum. You don't?
No,
Okay. I'm sorry,
or
child.
not your rendition of it. Maybe I do remember the song.
I have been invited out of the church choir. Yeah. So that gives you an indication.
All right.
Okay. So yes, a lot of change. And when we talked about that model, we talked about we are simultaneously working multiple parts of the model. It's just
Right.
everywhere.
Right.
And they all impact and affect one another.
Right.
And I have had some incidents and some
Mhm.
things that have happened as of late that were really quite fun.
Yeah.
And we're part of it.
Yeah. So what happened? Tell me.
Well, let me tell you a background.
Okay.
One is I have come to terms with a way to understand my past and my present.
Okay.
So I grew up in a body with male anatomy.
Okay.
I was treated as a male.
Okay.
And so I grew up and I went over 5 decades
Okay.
living as a male.
Okay.
But that was with increasing internal torment
Okay.
because of my awareness of my femininity.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so the question becomes when one realizes that she's female
Mhm.
and starts to present as female,
Okay.
what does she do with that male past?
Okay.
Right. And there are some, you'll hear the phrase dead name.
Right. Right.
And, it's as if that individual is dead. They're gone.
Right.
They don't want to be reminded of it.
Right.
Don't even use
And
the name.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I was speaking just this past week, and I was using some terms that are very familiar in the LGBTQ community.
Yes.
And I had someone come up afterwards and ask me about some of these terms. So
Right.
let's talk specifically about what you mean by dead name.
Okay.
What is this concept of dead name, and then how does that all work?
Okay. When I was born, I had male anatomy,
Mhm.
and so they decided that I was male. They take a look and
Right.
they say it's a boy.
Right.
And so my parents had selected 2 names.
Okay.
One that they were going to use if I were born a boy, and one
Right.
if I was a girl. Because remember, back in the 50s,
Right.
they didn't have all the
Right.
technology.
The
You
50s,
didn't.
you mean the 60s?
No, no, I'm sorry. Thank you for that. You're very gracious. Yeah, back in the 80s.
Okay, there you
Yeah.
go. Your parents just didn't want to know. The technology was there. Her parents just didn't want to
That
know.
was it. That was it. And so,
So they had 2 names for you.
Right.
And we talked about that.
Yeah.
How you got your
my
name.
current name,
Yeah, your current
Teresa
name.
Colleen,
Yeah.
and I go by Teri.
Right.
But my previous name that I usually try to avoid
Right.
saying, I'm
Right.
not afraid of it. It's not a bad name.
Right.
And so what do I do with that whole person?
Right.
And I had a counselor several years ago that pointed out to me that that boy did an excellent job protecting this girl
Okay.
from a lot of the
Wow.
forces in the world. Had I presented
Right.
myself in that time period,
Hmm.
pre 80s, um, you know, as a female,
Right.
it would have caused all kinds of problems.
Okay.
And although I really believe that my mom sensed it,
Wow.
and I really believe that I mean, I did sense it, I didn't understand
Right.
it.
Right.
So I have this person that went through school,
Right.
got great grades, loved to
Yes.
read,
Mhm.
got full scholarships to college,
Wow.
went, served as a senior pastor, served as a staff member on a
Mhm.
larger church, served for almost 3 decades in
Mhm.
active duty as a
Right.
military officer, as a chaplain, and then continued in the pastorate. That individual did a lot of good.
Right.
And that individual did a lot of growing.
Yes.
And that individual finally was willing to step out of the limelight
Okay.
and let me emerge.
Wow.
And so, um, for each person, and I speak of trans
Mhm.
women,
Right.
there's similar experience on the other side
Mhm.
for trans men. So for each person, we have to figure out what do we do with that person.
Right.
And some try to completely write it out of history.
Mhm.
And I find myself, when I'm telling stories of my childhood, I
Right.
find myself very comfortably saying, when I was a little girl.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I look back in my mind, I see myself
Right.
as a little girl in many of
Right.
those scenarios. And so that's the mental imagery that I have.
Right.
Um, where did we start with this question?
So your dead name
My dead
was
name.
the name that was assigned to you
Yes.
at birth. And it's my understanding in the trans community that it's impolite
Yes.
to ask someone, well, what was your dead name?
Right. Right.
Because it's just not something that is really that relevant, or just something
Yeah.
that sort of trying to control your story or dictate what your story was, and trying to say, well, no, sort of suggestion, well, that's really the person that you are. What do you
Yeah.
think the reason is why it's
Well, I think it's similar to what happens when you have someone who is a U.S. resident
okay?
or U.S. citizen, but they're here, whatever they
Right.
are,
Right.
and yet their nationality is identifiable as being from another country.
Okay.
And
And
so,
they're not white. That's what you're saying.
yes,
Okay. And so
and
asking that person, where are you from?
yeah, and they say, "Oh, I'm from Alabama,"
No,
you
no, no,
know.
no. Where are you really from?
Yes,
Is the question. Okay.
and that denigrates their
Yeah.
American identity,
Right. Okay.
and it's similar to that.
Okay. No,
Um,
that's a really helpful
yeah,
analogy, I think.
because it implies you're not really American, you're really something
Right.
else.
Okay.
You're not
Right.
one of
Okay.
us. It's a very
Yeah.
non-inclusive. Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about the concept of the dead name,
Yes.
and then let's get
Yeah.
back into then the story of your emerging, and you were
Okay.
talking about how that person had stepped aside and you came out.
Yes. So it's been about a year and a half that I've been living in this beautiful area.
Mhm.
And this entire time, I've lived completely exclusively as a woman.
Okay.
I don't have any male clothing.
Hmm.
I don't have any, I don't know, I have a tie or two somewhere that I haven't managed to get to the thrift shop.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, so um, my identity has been completely of feminine expression.
Okay.
But when we are doing an expression, we are perceived by other people however they see us.
Right. And that's one of the things. Remember, we did the genderbred
Yes,
person.
the expression.
Yeah, that was really interesting. It's there's sort of there is an expression, there's gender expression, and there's gender perception.
Yes.
And so we are talking about then sort of that you were expressing as a woman, and then the
And
perception, may not be
right.
exactly aligned with that.
Yeah. And sometimes that misperception or misgendering can be a very painful and traumatic thing, a very disturbing thing. At other times, I take it in stride. A lot of it depends on the circumstances.
Okay.
Um, I don't know what I did yesterday. Maybe it's because I didn't have makeup on or whatever, but I was wearing a dress kind of like this, and everything you see is everything you see. And so I a couple of times was addressed as sir. And I'm wondering to myself, what gives that indication? You know, but
yeah.
it happens. It
Hmm.
happens. And so, uh, but I've had a couple of incidents. So the person that young man that grew up in to become a
Okay.
middle-aged man was a minister
Okay.
and did more weddings than you can imagine.
Hmm.
Officiated, married
Right.
more people, and so that person has been to a lot of weddings.
Right.
On the other hand, Terry
Okay.
has been to no weddings except when she was along for the ride with the other guy.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
what I was starting to say is I finally resolved what I think I'm going to do. I'm referring to him as my twin brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Cool.
yeah. And so that's why we're so much alike.
Identical or fraternal?
I'm as of right now, unfortunately, still identical. That was what you put in the category of TMI.
Yeah.
Um, um, you did not mean that, and I took it that way, and I had fun with it that way on purpose. Um, yeah. So anyway, fraternal, and
Oh, yeah.
so yes, and
Of
so
course.
um, I went to a wedding,
Hmm.
and it was not one I was officiating. I did once in my feminine identity officiate a real quick, short courthouse wedding for a
Okay.
couple, but that
We had a big wedding.
I no, I didn't do it. I attended.
Yeah.
I was a
Right.
guest.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and it was a beautiful wedding. Two of my friends, two ladies that are in the community that, oh, I just love them
Hmm.
dearly. And they married. And so the wedding had a lot of people who were very open
Okay.
to
Cool.
the LGBT community and
Okay.
were either allies or members of.
Okay. Great.
And so it was a wonderful event. And the brides were beautiful. And oh, the food. Oh, we had a meal afterward. It was delicious.
Mhm.
But a couple of things happened at that wedding, and I think that's what you're referring to,
Yeah.
that are part of this process of passing.
Right. Okay.
And so there are those who passing is like the Holy Grail,
Okay.
the brass
Right.
ring. Um,
And explain what that means,
oh,
in case people don't know.
the Holy Grail,
Not the Holy Grail.
the brass ring. Explain passing.
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 Yeah, passing. What does that
Okay.
mean?
So I don't have to explain Indiana Jones.
No, I
Okay.
got Indiana
Got that.
Jones.
Okay, so passing means that I have an internal identity
Right.
as a female, and I express myself as a female. For example, I have on some rings. Most guys don't wear multiple rings, and I have on a necklace, and I have a bracelet,
Mhm.
earrings. I have
Nice.
lipstick.
Gorgeous hair.
Lovely hair. Yes. You'll pray for me
Now,
about my
some
hair.
guys, some guys do have gorgeous hair though.
They do. They do. But it's really growing. But when it's not curly, it's down to my shoulder.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's very rarely not curly. Anyway, so passing means that what I am expressing is what you are perceiving.
Right. So when that gender perception matches the gender expression,
Right.
that's passive.
So I express myself as a woman, and you see me as a woman. You don't see me as a transgender woman.
Right.
You
Right.
don't see me as somebody who has become a woman.
Right.
None of those qualifiers.
Right.
You just see a woman.
Right.
Yes.
And that's what happened at this
A
wedding.
couple of times, yes. And
Yeah.
so one conversation, this was so funny. We were standing there. It was at
At the
the
reception.
couple's farm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And so we had the ceremony, and then they moved all the chairs over to where the tables had been set
Oh,
up
cool.
for the dinner.
Mhm.
But there was a little time just standing and waiting, as there is at every wedding.
Right.
And this woman who turns out to be a little bit older than I am,
Okay.
she came up and just in conversation, she looked at me and she said, "When do these hot flashes?" That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. When do these hot flashes ever end? And we both kind of gave a knowing laugh. And well, she was asking me that seriously.
Right.
And I answered her seriously.
Right.
And I'll explain that in a minute. But I said, well, mine aren't as bad as they used to be occasionally. And we talked about, for those of you who don't know, when we get to be about this age, 50-ish or more, women
Mhm.
go through menopause, and there are symptoms like we just have this flush of heat.
Mhm.
And I did actually experience hot flashes
Okay.
because they're all based on a hormonal
Right.
change.
Right.
And so um, usually it's connected to what's happening with the uterus.
Right.
I've never had a uterus
Okay.
in my entire life.
Okay.
And I never will,
Right.
unless medical science really changes. And if it does, I'm not that. I'll make other changes, but
All right. Yeah, you don't need to have a womb for a baby.
I don't, not at this age. My name is not Sarah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I knew what she was talking about. I had
Right.
experienced it. And for example, before I was allowed to leave my last church after I came out to them, there were times I would leave the house, I would ride to church perfectly comfortable,
Mhm.
not stressed in any way,
Uh-huh.
in an air conditioned vehicle,
Okay.
and all of a sudden my shirt would be drenched in sweat,
Oh wow.
just
Huh.
drenched.
Huh.
And it's the hot flash. It just,
Yeah.
completely came over me, my
Wow.
face,
Huh.
and people look at me and say, "What happened? What's going on?" You know? And even as a male, the pastor should not be doing a wet t-shirt contest on Sunday morning. So anyway, I'd had hot flashes.
Right. That's
And
funny.
they have another symptom that, night sweats.
Okay.
And you wake up and your bed is soaked because you've
Oh,
been
wow.
sweating so much.
Yeah.
And your partner is saying, I'm gonna go, if you
Yeah.
don't mind, I'm gonna sleep in the guest room tonight and forevermore.
So you had this funny story with this woman.
Yes. And
That
so,
just sounds so wonderful.
yeah, so she came up and she asked me, and then we discussed it.
Yes.
And I don't believe she ever caught on that I've
Yes.
never had a uterus.
Right.
And so that was, that's a very affirming thing, because that says here is a quote, real live woman
Mhm.
who sees me and sees me as a part of the woman's sisterhood.
And you're having a conversation that you would only have inside that sisterhood,
Yes.
and only between two women. Like if there were a man there, I don't think she would have said that, like if you'd have been standing there and a man had been there as
Yeah,
well.
maybe not.
She probably wouldn't have come over and said that to
At
you.
least
That's just
that
sort of-
wouldn't have been her opening line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although you're a manly man, and I'm saying it to you.
Because we're having a conversation
Oh,
about it. You're not asking me about my hot flashes.
no, I'm not. And I don't want to know if you have them. Okay. So anyway, a man gets his hot flashes when he's out working under the sun,
There you go.
breaking rocks or whatever guys do. So anyway, that happened.
Mhm.
And then, we had the meal, and one of the gentlemen from our church served as my plus one.
Okay.
He was my escort
Okay.
and part of our group, and just a
Nice.
wonderful gentleman. I love him dearly.
Uh-huh.
And so, it's part of the problem. God wastes good looks on gay guys. What up? What up? But anyway,
Not my problem.
no, it's not. But anyway, so he just treated me so wonderfully
Yes.
as my companion, and treated me like a lady the entire evening. It was
Wonderful.
just so wonderful. And then afterward, we stopped by someplace else for coffee, and we sat there for a couple of hours solving all the
nice.
world's problems.
There you go.
Yeah.
Did he open doors for you? Car
Oh,
doors?
open doors.
Car doors?
Yes, car doors,
Oh, awesome.
building doors, whatever.
There you go.
And hey, anybody that's listening, I don't care if you are with a lady, open the blasted door for her.
Yeah.
Let's bring back a little bit of chivalry.
I think it's a great idea.
I do. And so you know what I do now when I'm out with a guy, I tell them up front because they may not know.
Yeah, we went to lunch and you said, "Hey, do you mind opening the car door for me?"
Yeah.
And
I just let him know.
pleased to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the guy likes to do it if he
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah.
And of course, there's
Good
some women
Southern
that,
gentleman.
yeah, some women don't want it because
Right.
they want to have their own independence,
Right.
and they're welcome to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me just kind of steer you
Steer me
back to this wedding.
Okay, so we're at the
And
wedding.
you're at the wedding after the dinner.
After
There's
the
a
dinner.
band.
I'm sitting there with the DJ,
Okay, DJ.
and the couple has carefully curated the song list,
Okay.
and so it's things that I can appreciate at least.
Okay.
And so the bride's brother,
Okay.
who I met when we first arrived,
Okay.
but I actually already knew because I had known him through the family. I
Okay.
talked with them enough that I knew their families.
Okay.
And so I met him when I first arrived, and I teased him about what his sister told me about him and that kind of thing. Um, but he is the perfect trifecta of evil.
Okay.
And here's what I mean by that. He's gay,
Okay.
he's married,
Uh-uh.
and he's happily married. Okay?
I like that the two things are separated.
Yes.
Married and happily married.
Right,
Because
because
two separate criteria.
yes, if somebody says, "Oh, he's married," I answer back and I say, "Happily," you know. I am not going to wreck a home, but if it's already fallen apart,
There you go. You might
yeah,
as well drag one survivor out.
that's right. Somebody has to be saved from the fire. But anyway, but this gentleman, wonderful gentleman, handsome gentleman, came up and I was sitting at the table and he asked me to dance.
Okay.
And so I
Do you
got
remember the
up.
song? What was the song?
I don't know the song. I didn't
Okay.
know the song,
Okay.
but I'll explain why I don't know the song in a
All right.
minute.
Okay.
Because I still remember my first kiss. I think we've talked about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, anyway, I got sidetracked there. I was distracted, friends, distracted. Um, so, the dance. Yeah. So I got up and I left my cane there.
Okay.
And you don't see, but I usually use a cane or a walker, and I really don't need them. I walk fine without them, except when I fall. I just don't know when I'm going to fall, so I use them.
Right.
And so I told him I'm leaving my cane here, so I'm depending on you. He said,
Okay.
"No problem, I've
Nice.
got you."
Nice.
So we walk over to the dance floor, and I've got my arm in his,
Okay.
and then we start to dance.
Okay.
And he's got his hand in the small of my back, and the other hand, and we're dancing. And the first few steps. Now, this is the first time I've ever danced with a man.
Wow.
Oh,
Was he taller than you?
he was about the same height.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. Um, I was in heaven. Okay. People argue the theological question about whether heaven is after, whether heaven is
Right.
here now. Believe
Right.
me, it's here now.
Right.
I've been
Wow.
to it.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were dancing, and
Okay.
it was wonderful. And he was
So
leading, and
So what kind of dancing? Like a slow dance? Was
no, it
kind
wasn't
of
slow. It was a kind of medium
steps?
pace. Yeah,
Okay.
some steps. And because there were steps, here's where the problem came in. As we were going around, I mean, he wasn't twirling me or doing anything fancy, but just as we were moving, and I've not danced in a whole long time.
Right.
And if I had as a Baptist, I'd never admit it. But anyway,
Yeah, we probably do need to have a disclaimer. We do not recommend anyone dance.
yeah. Do you know why Baptists don't make love standing up?
Might lead to dancing.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, it looks just like dancing. Okay. That will make the final edit. Anyway, so we're dancing, and because I'm not accustomed to it, and we're moving a little faster than I
Right.
usually move, I started to lose my balance.
And you were swooning.
And was that what was happening?
Yes.
Hot damn. I was swooning.
He made you swoon.
He did.
So you were having a little touch of the vapors.
The vapors, and I started to get a little dizzy.
Started to swoon.
Yes. So I told him.
Yes.
I said, I'm getting a little off balance. Can we slow down a little bit? Well, two things happened.
Yes.
He did slow the pace,
Okay.
and which was not as pleasant because now we're not dancing quite with the song.
Okay.
And it's still pleasant,
Right.
but it wasn't like it was before.
Right.
But I mean, when you're in heaven, does it
Right.
matter which part of heaven you're in?
Right.
You know? And so, but I was still a little uncomfortable, and I told him. And so I felt this strong man's arm in the small of my back pull me up close to him.
Nice.
Be still my heart.
Did that moment just sort of stretch in time?
I'm
just
still
seems
there.
like you're still
I'm
there.
still
That's
there.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really feel bad for his ex-mate. They're going to do a nice funeral service for him.
Well,
Yeah.
you got to take what you want sometimes.
You got to go for
You
it.
just got to do it.
Like I said, the brass ring, if you don't grab it, you don't have it.
Yeah.
So, I was one hit man away from having that guy. That's the way I figured it. Anyway, so I had that experience.
So how do you have these particular moments?
Yeah.
Because we've talked about times when you've been treated very poorly.
Yeah.
We talked about when you went shopping.
Yeah.
And so now, how do you hold on to these moments like this and as a way to help you sort of get through some of the more difficult times.
Darling, I let them hold on to me.
Okay.
Okay. And so, when I was only half teasing when I was saying what I was about that first kiss,
Okay.
I could still
Wow.
taste it.
Wow.
Okay. I could still feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And then my second kiss was with the same gentleman,
Okay.
and it got even better. And you don't want the details. I will sell them though. Anyway, tell a memoir.
There you go.
Yeah, about the
Yeah.
girl that kissed.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah. So the thing is, what do we retain? We retain those things that are
Mhm.
strongly emotionally charged,
Right.
because those are the things that are able to penetrate our
Mhm.
mind to our heart or our
Mhm.
conscious to our subconscious.
Right.
Whatever.
Physiologically, our brains do
Yes.
remember things where our emotions have gotten involved. So that is,
Yes.
that is something that is very critical.
And so I retain it, but in a more real sense, it retains me. And the secret to me letting it retain me
Mhm.
is in how I process it.
Okay.
And so if I have a negative experience,
Mhm.
I need to process that
Okay.
to let it go.
Okay.
If I have a positive experience, I want to process it to keep it.
Huh.
Okay.
That's very interesting.
And the mechanism for both can be very similar,
Okay.
because how did you know to ask me these questions? But I told you earlier.
Right. Right.
Okay. And so I shared that very positive experience just as I had shared the very negative experiences.
Okay.
So giving voice to the experience,
Okay.
identifying it, separating myself from it,
Hmm.
and then when I want to, rejoining myself to it,
Okay.
and when I don't want to, letting it go.
Okay.
All of those things.
Mhm.
And there's a lot more to processing our
Right.
feelings and our experiences, and we've got, let's put in a plug. We have a phenomenal pastoral counselor here on staff at our church.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's a great person to go to
Yeah.
for that kind of thing.
I'm
Yeah.
like Kendra.
Kendra,
Yeah.
exactly. And oh, that girl's gold.
Yeah.
So that processing is a part of it. And how do I, because there are some things I want to process to possess,
Right.
and there's some things I want to process to divest.
I like that.
Isn't that good?
Yeah.
Oh, I tell you what, I just made that up.
So process to
Possess,
divest.
process to divest.
Okay. Sounds
It
good.
would have only been better if I could have thought of a
So-
divest word that started with the P.
To dispossess.
Dispossess.
To possess and dispossess.
We could say that.
Or invest and divest.
Okay, we'll play with that.
All right, we're going to work on that for next time. But
Right.
this was such a great story, and
Yeah.
it's so exciting to hear
But there's more.
that there's more. Wow,
There's
I
more.
don't know about the conclusion of this story then.
Yes, yes. So I've come to the realization as I've thought of this twin thing. So it's really not more, it's just developing that
Okay.
as we wrap up. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. With this twin thing, very frankly, when I divorced my ex, I assumed a lot of debt.
Okay.
And the reason I did that was because I was the one that had run it up.
Okay.
Okay. So I worked very hard and eliminated that debt.
Right.
Okay. And then I've started saving.
Okay.
And I am saving toward surgery.
Okay.
Okay. So when I am able to get my gender confirmation surgery, some of which I could, if the calendar worked, I could do it tomorrow.
Wow.
As I do that, there's a key that every girl has to realize.
Okay.
And that is the same girl goes into surgery as the girl that comes out of surgery.
Okay.
The surgery changes the physical configuration.
Right.
It doesn't change who I am.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Now this is what that means to me right now.
Okay.
Damn, I'm a woman full-fledged 100% now. There's no more
Right.
waiting.
Right.
I'm going full
Wow.
strong.
Wow.
Nonstop. Just what is that? Full stop is, I don't know. I'm having trouble.
Yeah, full
coming up
stop
with
could be
words.
like all the way.
All the way. Yeah. But I'm
That's
confused.
sort of like, that's more like a period. Like if you say something you know, that's like an affirmation, like adamant statement.
Okay.
Like, I am going to be there tomorrow, full stop.
Wow. So full stop and nonstop both mean the same thing in a way. I mean, they both point in the same direction. That's
Okay,
good
yeah,
enough.
we're
This
really
is not a grammar lesson.
engaging in some
Yeah.
gymnastics.
We are
Some
verbal.
verbal
I
gymnastics
love
today,
verbal
but
gymnastics.
yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I am going to take vocal lessons so that I can sing like Helen Reddy. Helen Reddy was a lady that sang back in the 70s,
Okay.
just before I was born.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she had a song. It's kind of a feminist theme song of the
Okay.
day, and it was "I Am Woman."
Yes. Hear me roar.
Yes, that's it.
Yes.
You do
Awesome.
know.
Yes, I know that song.
Good. You listen to the oldies. I'm
Yes,
proud
of
of you.
course.
Yes. I didn't know you had that much culture. So anyway, that's the other piece is
Okay.
those experiences
Mhm.
paired with my thought and growth processes, it all comes together and it makes for a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that excitement and that success. I
Yeah.
know our listeners, our viewers will be happy to kind of hear about your journeys. And again, I'm Brian,
Wait, are you going to tell the guys, the available guys?
the available guys. Are you marketing now?
Well, that's not a ladylike thing to do.
Oh, okay.
I'm just asking you a question, darling.
Of course, Miss Teri is available for dancing anytime, any place.
But she needs to be held close.
Yes.
That's a neat trick now.
There you go.
Anytime I want a guy to hold me close,
Oh,
I just
excuse
said,
me, I'm getting flushed. I'm getting a case of the vapors. All right.
Anyway, you were
thanks.
about to say something. You were going to say this is.
I want to say thanks so much, Teri,
Yeah.
for our queer chat
Are you
with
going to ask me
Brian.
for a profound thing at the end?
I will. Can you do that after all of the profundity that you've had, all the depth, all the wisdom that you've shared
I
already?
can.
Is there a wrap up that you can give us as we close out queer chat?
There is.
Please.
Let the good things in life possess you.
There you go.
How about that?
Thank y'all. Have a good week. Look forward to next time.
You're
Brian.
and I'm Teri.
All right. This is Queer Chat.